TC, time for headlines from Smerconish.com. I'm going to do the Freaky Friday edition, meaning that the headlines today, of course, have a lot of front page news, a lot of serious news pertaining to Ukraine, COVID, et cetera, but a lot of off the page news as well, off the front page.
Okay.
Actually, the first of my stories relates to Ukraine. And I don't think I can play this because there's a rights issue, but I want to call people's attention to from Guitar World. Yes, a link from Guitar World at Smerconish.com.
We're scrolling down to the end of the newsletter.
I know. Headline, Pink Floyd reunite. Well, kinda. To record new song, Hey, Hey, Rise Up in support of Ukraine. This is based on a World War I era Ukrainian protest song. I can't pronounce the name of the vocalist, but it's a vocalist from Ukraine with Nick Mason playing the drums, David Gilmour's distinctive guitar. I put it on my Facebook page as well. When I say, not so much a full Pink Floyd reunion, of course, what I mean is that there's no Roger Waters and Richard Wright is gone. But it's pretty cool. And I love the fact that they've gotten together for the first time in a long time to create a new piece of music. And I encourage everybody to go and to find it. I can't get enough of P22.
You just are so into this. I get it, Michael. I had a fox in my backyard over the weekend, and I was completely obsessed.
Did it bite anyone, and did you euthanize it?
Okay, stop, because that is very sad. Do you know that they then had to euthanize all the kits too?
Yeah, I do.
But if I saw P22, I would go bonkers. I don't even know what I would do. I have such respect for that, though. I'm not scared. I have a very healthy respect, but that's something.
P22 is a mountain lion.
Yes.
P22 left the Santa Monica Mountains and crossed two major Southern California freeways. When? We don't know. How? We don't know. But keeps making his appearance known. And here's the story from the LA Times. Before moving to Los Angeles, the wildlife that Kevin Prince encountered near his home in Hell's Kitchen in New York City consisted in large parts of rats clinging to slices of pizza. But in the Hollywood Hills, he's come face to face with the Southland's favorite feline citizen. Did I say he? Did I mean she? Is P22 a male or a female? I should know that.
I should know that too. I don't know. I'm going with female just because she's so awesome.
So this one guy says that he's had 4 visits from P22 in the last year and a half.
Unbelievable.
You have to see the footage. You have to believe. And these are people living in such a densely populated area. And then this enormous mountain lion in their midst. It's a great story. Okay, here's the real tiger story that we're all interested in. It comes from golf.com. Tiger Woods is 1 under. It's amazing. I mean, if you said to me that he was 10 under, I'd still be ecstatic. Like, my God, he actually was able to walk 18. He's in the hunt. And I guess today, TC, is the day that they'll determine at the end of the day the cut for the weekend.
Yep.
If he continues to, he almost had a hole-in-one on the 6th.
I mean, the fact that everyone's watching him so carefully and the crowds are insane. And they're watching every little thing, every walk, every, all his how he reacts to a bad putt or something. I mean, it really is all about Tiger.
Can you imagine the golf television ratings for this weekend if he makes the cut?
They already are. I mean, they're already insane. They were crazy yesterday. I think people didn't get any work done yesterday afternoon. So yeah, it's going to be great. I think he tees off at sometime 1:40-ish. Yeah, 1:40-ish this afternoon. And yeah, if he was 10 over, I don't know if we would still be talking about it as much if it was 10 over. The fact that he's 1 under and
it's amazing.
Set up, he'll make the cut is incredible.
How is this possible? The car crash was a year plus ago?
Hardly. And he it's not just a car, like he almost lost a leg. And there are certain people, there's a reason why he is one of the world's greatest athletes. And this is a mindset and a physicality, and it's just incredible.
Go Tiger.
Yeah.
Go Tiger.
That'd be a lesson to all of us.
If we had a follow-up impact segment of the program, this would be it. From the Philadelphia Inquirer today, I discussed this yesterday, and I want to close the loop. An ad supporting Connor Lamb sparked a backlash for wrongly calling John Fetterman a self-described Democratic socialist. So this is the race for the U.S. Senate from Pennsylvania. The two top Democratic contenders are Connor Lamb, a congressman, John Fetterman, the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania. A state representative by the name of Malcolm Kenyatta is also running. The issue here is that Fetterman is in the lead, according to the polls. A super PAC supportive of Connor Lamb went on air and then quickly pulled down an ad where they said that Fetterman was a self-described Democratic socialist. I mentioned yesterday that this drew a rebuke from Elizabeth Warren, who said it was a disgusting ad. I'm not sure in the context of modern politics what was so particularly disgusting about this, but it was incorrect. It was based on an NPR story that was later corrected. Okay, now the ad says that Fetterman sought the Democratic Socialists' endorsement. And the fact check on that says Politico is accurate. It's true. So that's the resolution in the short term. But the observation that I made yesterday is one that Malcolm Kenyatta makes in the Philadelphia Inquirer today, which is, when are we going to talk about the incident where John Fetterman pulled a loaded shotgun on an unarmed African-American jogger in his neighborhood in Braddock, Pennsylvania? When he heard gunfire, responded to it. He's the mayor. He was worried about public safety, but he wrongly assumed that a guy running through his neighborhood was involved in whatever spurred the gunfire. Malcolm Kenyatta says, look, we can either talk about it now in April, or we'll be talking about it in November, but we have to talk about it. It's exactly what I said. If the issue's not vetted now, you can rest assured that Dave McCormick, the Republican, or Dr. Oz, the Republican, will bring it up. And speaking of Dr. Oz, he made the cut today at Smerconish.com as well. From the Hollywood Reporter, when you run for office at the federal level, you've got to make a filing. People get to know within parameters your net worth. The headline for many is that in 2021, Oz Media paid Dr. Oz more than $7 million in compensation. The most interesting aspects of this, though, for me, TC, Cameo. He made $23,000 from Cameo.
Okay,
I didn't know he was available on Cameo. I might have selected him for my wife's birthday instead of Governor Palin.
I think of him. Okay, so I was always wondering what people make in Cameo. So think about Sarah Palin. Would you put her as making more from Cameo than Dr. Oz? Probably, right? So is she making upwards of 50, 100?
Well,
now I am fascinated.
She's good at it.
Well, she's
damn
also
good
has
at
a high profile.
I can tell you, she gives a really personal cameo. And if you're lucky, you get her in her backyard, which is the way I did. I mean, it was
snow.
And Michael Cohen is really good on Cameo too.
$3,000 from Cameo at what? $200 a pop?
I don't know his rate.
I'm amazed.
I don't know his rate. All right, how about this? How about for hosting Jeopardy? He was paid $268,000
for hosting. How long?
I don't know. The Hollywood Reporter doesn't tell you.
Yes, it does.
Oh, how long? Do you know?
Yes, guess.
A week.
2
weeks.
2 weeks, $268,000.
You know what?
But he donated it. He donated it to a charity.
Okay, to his credit. Good for that. If you said to me, what does Oz command for a week of hosting Jeopardy? I'd have said $100,000.
Boy, I
would have said $100,000.
I got to get involved with
20 a day.
He's got a lot going on.
Well, how about $330,000 in royalties for his role in developing the Mitra Clip, a cardiovascular device?
I think that's good work if you can get it.
And he was also paid as a spokesperson for Turkish Airlines. Guy's a hustler. I mean, in a positive sense of the. Now, look, you can either go to med school, become a success like Dr. Oz, and then you too, once you've developed your profile, you can earn $23,000 from Cameo, delivering birthday and bar mitzvah and anniversary greetings. Or you can go drive a truck for Walmart, where the starting pay for in-house truck drivers is now as much as $110,000 a year. $110,000 a year. This, according to the Wall Street Journal. When I read in today, it was the most popular story at the Journal, and I'm not surprised. Is there about to be, this is like a Scott Galloway question, but are we in the midst, because of the pandemic, of a sea change where parents reevaluate the advice and direction that they give to their sons and daughters. In other words, will people now more so than in the recent past be saying, go drive a truck? You'll earn six figures driving a truck. Go learn a trade. Be a plumber, be an electrician, be a carpenter, be a cabinet maker. You can make a great income. $110,000. Walmart now paying that much for you to be a truck driver in their midst. Now, if you want to be a journalist instead of being a truck driver, perhaps you'll work at the New York Times someday. Dean Baquet is the editor. He sent out a memo yesterday and said it's time for a Twitter reset. We went with the Mediaite coverage for today's newsletter at Smerconish.com on this. Then he spoke in more detail about what he's trying to encourage people to do with Neiman Labs' Joshua Benton. And I was reading some of the quotes for this. His number one message, and I love this, seems to be, look up from the glowing screen, quote, go find some stuff out. First of all, I love that the top dog at the New York Times is speaking, I think, imprecisely in a grammatical sense. Go find some stuff out. We all understand it. Go do some reporting. Go find some stuff out. Go do some. See, I don't know what emerges from the ashes after all that's being said, discussed, and Elon Musk taking on a 9.2% stake in Twitter. What will Twitter look like in 6 months? Something tells me it's going to be significantly different than it is today.
Do you think so?
Yeah. How? I'm not sure.
Well, we would never have known all the macerations and everything that's going on with social media. You would never know anything.
I would just like it to be a less nasty place.
That's impossible.
Well, show us your face and it'll be a lot less nasty. That I can assure you. On the subject of big media, from the New York Post, John Stossel. Which of the shows is he on? He's one of these like Dateline or 2020. An investigative journalist where he's talking in the context of Hunter Biden and the New York Post story about Hunter Biden a year and a half ago having been censored. He then talks about his own experience where he apparently made 2 videos that suggested that he thinks fears of climate change are overblown. He didn't say that climate change isn't real, didn't say it won't cause problems. In fact, he said it's already caused problems, but he said he thinks it's overblown. And for that, he's been censored on Facebook and by big tech. And I thought that was a provocative piece that you want to read. President Obama, interviewed by Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic. This as part of David Axelrod's Chicago gathering at the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics, where I was once a speaker, and he's got a really good thing going there. Well, it was former President Obama in interview with The Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg, and Obama says this. I so accept what he said, and he's spoken of this in the past. If you ask me what I'm most concerned about when I think back toward the end of my presidency, it probably has more to do with the topic here today. It's something I grappled with a lot during my presidency. Namely, I saw it sort of unfold, and that is the degree to which information, disinformation, misinformation is being weaponized. And we saw it, but I think I underestimated the degree to which democracies were as vulnerable to it as they were, including ours. Go and read the totality of that interview. It's posted at the website today, and I think that it's really worthy. Now, here's something else that's interesting. Chris Wallace, speaking of the media, speaking of a polarized media, he, of course, left Fox News, went to CNN Plus. He had an interview, a sit-down with Nicole Hannah-Jones from the 1619 Project. And he challenged her claim that the greatest generation, this is a quote, that the greatest generation brutally suppressed democracy for Black people. What's interesting is that I saw the story at the Daily Mail. I saw the story at Mediaite. I've seen the story in a number of different outlets. I didn't see the story at CNN.com. I said to TC, go to CNN.com. Please tell me if I'm missing something. And I find this to be so unusual because CNN is very actively, very aggressively promoting CNN Plus, which just launched within the last week. And of course, truly the biggest name talent, I think, associated with CNN Plus is Chris Wallace. Were you able to find this at CNN.com?
No, and I didn't. I was actually curious because I was so surprised that I didn't see it that I thought maybe they don't have anything on CNN Plus on the homepage and it's all on a different page. It's on like a CNN Plus page, but that's not the case. There's a ton about CNN Plus and Anderson Cooper and different shows. There's a whole streak on it and videos. So it is just not on the homepage.
So it has to be deliberate, right?
Well, maybe they don't feel like it's as heated was the word that I think the Daily Mail used.
TC, you're launching a new platform. You desperately need eyeballs on that platform. Here's something being written about in other media outlets. And by the way, maybe this changes today. As of the time you and I came on air this morning, we both looked,
yes,
and neither could find it.
Yes, that's true.
I find it very unusual. Here's what we're talking about in more specificity.
They had to know, by the way, that he was having her on and would take her on. Like, this can't have come as a surprise, right?
You would think this would be manna from heaven when you're promoting a new platform. During the interview on CNN Plus, Wallace read Hannah Jones a passage from her Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times series, which aimed to, quote, reframe the country's history to focus on the consequences of slavery. The passage reads as follows: without the idealistic, strenuous, and patriotic efforts of Black Americans, our democracy today would most likely look very different. It might not be a democracy at all. We like to call those who lived during World War II the greatest generation, but that allows us to ignore the fact that many of this generation fought for democracy abroad while brutally suppressing democracy for millions of American citizens. So Wallace then says, I'm in no way minimizing our terrible racial legacy, but in some of these things, aren't you overstating? And she then says, if you have half the country where it's in some states majorities, in many other states pluralities, 25% of the population, 40% of the population cannot vote, have their vote violently suppressed, where they're a single one-party, one-race rule in a region where about 30% of the population is Black, would you consider that a democracy? That's great conversation. That's great fodder. But I didn't see it when I was at CNN.com doing my read-in, which I thought was really of interest. From the New York Times today, the top two prosecutors in the Trump investigation launched by the Manhattan DA, which had been Cyrus Vance Jr., now it's Alvin Bragg. Two top prosecutors recently left. The New York Times has told their whole story. They were disgusted. They think that they have enough to indict Donald Trump, but the new guy, Alvin Bragg, wouldn't go along with it. So this is now Bragg doing an interview with the New York Times, insisting that the inquiry has continued despite the recent resignations of two senior prosecutors who'd been leading it. So Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, wants the world to know that he's not yet made a final decision relative to Donald Trump. Something I posted at Smerconish.com today and in the newsletter from Politico. Chrystia Freeland drops a bombshell, a thrifty budget. Can I tell you why I put this in the mix? Because Chrystia Freeland, because we have so many Canadian listeners, and thank you for listening in the North. We really do appreciate it. But Chrystia Freeland, who is the Minister of Finance of Canada and a Deputy Prime Minister, is a former guest on this program and a great guest. Like, do you remember, TC? I would say
one
to you,
of the best.
Yeah, she was tremendous.
Yes.
And there was always a quote that she offered about the world being flat, a la Tom Friedman. I'd say, get me that Chrystia Freeland quote.
Get me the quote. Get me the piece. So much so that I had it saved for ages.
Right.
In like a special files. And now, we knew her when, Michael.
I know. Is she going to be the prime minister? Is she going to succeed Trudeau?
She's the deputy prime minister. Maybe. I don't know.
I now have two very powerful Canadian friends. Well, I don't know that I could call Chrystia Freeland a friend. I hope I could call her a friend.
But your other friend is not Canadian. He's
just the United States ambassador to Canada in David L. Cohen. I wonder if David L. Cohen and Chrystia Freeland have yet made an acquaintance and relationship.
100%.
I'll bet the answer to that is true. Yeah. I'll bet the answer to that is true. Working progressively now toward the front page, and we're almost there. Ketanji Brown Jackson. It is now Justice Jackson to you. Robert Barnes in the Washington Post today. White men, for the first time, will no longer make up a majority. The oldest and longest serving justice is Black. Women will be as close to parity as is possible on a 9-member bench. And in a government where the president is 79 and the Speaker of the House is 82, the average age of a justice will be just, I'm adding the word just, 61. She arrives too late to participate in the abortion decision, which we all anticipate is going to be a significant rollback of abortion rights in this country. But right off the bat, she's going to get to weigh in on affirmative action, same-sex marriage, and voting rights. So Justice Jackson will have her say on those important issues very, very soon. The final two things that I'll mention: COVID cases on the rise in half the states. Of course, that and the coverage that I went with was from Axios, talking about how half the states are seeing COVID cases rise again, while nationwide totals continue to fall. This is the Omicron variant known as BA2, the dominant strain circulating around the United States, and still a lot of. And this is a different story from NBC. New wave of COVID cases from a variety of different events I referenced yesterday. Concern about the president's health and well-being, given that Speaker Pelosi has tested positive. She gave him an embrace, a kiss, when they were together at a White House event a couple of days ago, celebrating the 12-year anniversary or thereabouts of the Affordable Care Act. And finally, from the BBC today, relative to Ukraine, headline: Kremlin spokesman Peskov admits significant Russian losses. Presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov told the British channel Sky News the casualties were a huge tragedy for us. Rare that you get that kind of an acknowledgement. Yesterday, I asked, should the Biden administration have again extended the pause on student loan payments and interest accrual? Very interesting. 9,619 people voted. 53% said no. Roughly 47% said yes. Today's survey question: is the current debate about Title 42 based more on public health policy or border control? I recognize that that's probably going to be an Ed Schultz-like result if people come to the correct conclusion. It's all about border control. And I'm just, I tweeted about this earlier today. I'm just astonished by how little of the conversation is about whether the people, whether it's, 170,000 who are poised to cross the border quickly, 1.7 million who got turned away last year. So much of this conversation is all about border control, and so little of it is about whether they are COVID positive and will extend the pandemic. So those are the headlines today from Smerconish.com. Make sure you're voting on the survey question, and for goodness sakes, register for the newsletter if you've not already done so.